In this lesson, we will add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. So just as we did in our last video, we start by finding the LCD. So we're going to factor the denominator only of each to find the LCD. What we didn't do on the last video is we did not try to rewrite anything with the LCD as its denominator. So that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to multiply by whatever our fraction is missing, both in the numerator and the denominator. And then we will have two fractions that have a common denominator that we can then add or subtract. So let's try. Very simple one for our first one, xy and just y. Xy has a factor of x and a factor of y. Y does not have a factor of x, so my LCD on my first one would be 1x and 1y, so xy. This already has xy as my denominator, so I would have to multiply by x, but if I multiply by x on the denominator, I have to do it on the numerator. So what I have is 8 plus 9x over xy, because when I multiplied by x, that made my denominator xy the same, and then I could add here. These two were not like terms, so I just wrote 8 plus 9x, or I could write 9x plus 8 still over xy. Either of those would be perfectly fine. Let's look at the next one. Again, factor first. So I'm going to factor this into x plus 2, x plus 3, because those numbers multiply to 6 and add to 5. I would factor this into x plus 2, x minus 2. That's step one. Step two, find your LCD. So my LCD would be x plus 2 just once, x plus 3 just once, and x minus 2 just once. So all of those things. I need all three things in my denominator. So if I look at this, this is x plus 2, x plus 3. I'm missing the x minus 2. So I'd have to multiply by x minus 2 on both the top and the bottom. Here I've got the x plus 2 and the x minus 2, but I don't have the x plus 3, so I'd have to multiply by x plus 3 on top and on bottom. So this is getting a little bit jumbled, so I'm going to rewrite it. What I know is my denominator is all of this. X plus 2, x plus 3, x minus 2. It's all three of those. The first part of my numerator is x minus 4 times x minus 2, and the second part of my numerator is x minus 1 times x plus 3. So I've got a lot going on, which means I'm going to have to FOIL these two terms, these two binomials. I'll have to FOIL these two binomials. So let's do that. X times x gives me x squared. Then I would get minus 2x and minus 4x, which of course is minus 6x, and then plus 8. There's a plus in between, so that makes it a little bit easier. X times x is x squared. Plus 3x minus 1x gives me plus 2x, and then minus 3 over all of that, x plus 2, x plus 3, x minus 2, and now I'm going to reduce further. So x squared and x squared is 2x squared. Minus 6 and plus 2 gives me minus 4x. Plus 8 and minus 3 gives me plus 5, all over the entire denominator. Yes, you'll get sick of writing it, and that's okay. Then, of course, I would see if I could factor this any further. And this one will not factor further. You would try just by tic-tac-toe, etc. And so my final answer looks just like that. Two more for us to try. Again, this is already factored as low as it can go. This one, however, could be rewritten as 2 times the quantity of x minus 3. My LCD would be x minus 3 and 2. So this one's already there. I would have to take this times 2 on top and on bottom. So my denominator is 2 times the quantity of x minus 3, which is now the same. 2 times x minus 3, 2 times x minus 3. My numerator, I have 10x plus 12 minus x minus 2. So be careful, because this is one of those where I'm subtracting the whole thing, so I have to change it. And so I can do that on whichever step I want. And then, of course, combine like terms. So 10x and minus x gives me 9x. 12 and 2 gives me 14. My denominator is that common denominator. I would try to reduce anything here that I can, but nothing can be reduced, and so that's my answer. For my second, I've got 4x and 6x. So obviously we're going to need an x in our denominator. 4 and 6, which one would I use there? Well, I can't use 4 because 6 doesn't go into 4, and I can't use 6 because 4 doesn't go into 6, but both of those values go into 12. So I need to say, what would I multiply by this to make it 12x? I would have to take that times 3, and I would have to take this one times 2, and go from there. So now my denominator is 12x because both have a denominator of 12x. This gives me 15x minus 9, and then this is 2, so minus 2 because it's subtraction. I would then reduce anything I could. So minus 9 and minus 12 give me minus 9 and minus 2 give me minus 11. And that's all that I can do. Go ahead and try both of these on your own, then press play to see how you did. For the first, I would factor this into t plus 6, t minus 2. And this would factor into 2, t plus 6. So in order for those to be the same, I would have to multiply this by t minus 2. And I would have to multiply this by 2. If I do a 2 on the bottom, I have to do the 2 on the top. If I do the t minus 2 on the bottom, I have to do the t minus 2 on the top. Careful, this is a subtraction. So my denominator is all of that. Everything. My numerator is 6t minus 4. And then minus everything I get when I multiply. I'm going to keep this minus separate. 5 times t is 5t, and minus 10. So if you don't keep that minus separate, quite often people will mess up the sign on the 10. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my keep flip change. That gives me a 6t plus a negative 5t, which is t, and a minus 4 and a plus 10, which gives me plus 6. My denominator is all of this business. And I see that I've got a t plus 6 on the top and a t plus 6 on the bottom that are both factors, which leaves me with 1 over, and then 2 times the quantity of t minus 2. For the second one, a squared minus 9 is a plus 3a minus 3. This already has an a plus 3, so if I take that times a minus 3, then my denominators will be the same. So do it to the top and to the bottom. The denominator is the same. My numerator, I have a squared plus a plus 24, and then it's a plus, so I can relax a little bit, plus 5a minus 15. And then combine like terms. So I've got my a squared, I've got a plus a and a plus 5a, so that's plus 6a. I've got a plus 24 and a minus 15, so that's plus 9. And then at this point, I would try to factor the numerator. So the numerator looks like it's a plus 3 over a plus 3, a minus 3. And then, of course, those cancel out. So my final answer, don't have enough room to rewrite, so my final answer is a plus 3 over a minus 3.